Sean Farrell is in charge of digital assets research at Fundstrat though, and he has set some informal goals for me. He thinks of it this way. If we compare Circle's free cash flow multiple, which is presently at 130 times EBITDA, which is about 15,000 times EBITDA, we can see that Ethereum is closer to 15,000. I suppose that in the near future, our technological strategist, Mark Newton, thought we could be seeing for the end of the month for Ethereum, but that's not where it peaks. He just believes that's the primary goal. And then I thought about something. If Sean Farrell's math is right, then 10 to 15,000 makes sense too. By the end of the year, it could be the end of the year or it could be sooner. It actually depends, though. That, and again, that wouldn't be the cap. But that just tells you that there's actually a level above 5,000, which would be a decisive dot that Ethereum has broken out of its all-time high. So I believe it is also a really important level to keep an eye on. Tom Lee is getting more and more involved in the crypto sector, and I think he's going to provide you guys a lot of fresh ideas that will be quite helpful. But one of the most essential things we'll talk about in this video is the role of stablecoins and how they affect the actual price increase of crypto assets that are hosted on the blockchain, where those stablecoin transactions take place. Tom Lee was talking about how Ethereum's price has gone up because USDC and USDT transactions are happening on the Ethereum network. This is where most of those stablecoin transactions occurs. But I want you all to think about something. If transactions can make Ethereum's price shoot up 5x, what do you think is the chance and type of price action we may expect for X? Because a lot of people are using RLUSD, the answer will surprise you, though, since we're going to go over it in depth in today's video. But before we get into it, I want to say that my secret free trading club, Crypto Crusaders, is open to new members. In this group, you may use my trades and see every single entry I make. And I've been able to generate gains of up to 400% in a single month on more than one occasion. You guys can get in extremely easily. Once you've watched the video, go to my website below and complete the 3 steps. Let's hear what Tom Lee has to say now. I think Ethereum is a chain that people are starting to look at again. I know that. People have said bad things about it in the past because of how Layer 2s and Layer 1s function together, or just because the network is always getting better and better. I believe the most important thing we need to ... as we can see from what's going on in the real world. Wall Street is moving toward crypto, and they're doing a lot of this work on Ethereum because stablecoins have entirely transformed Wall Street's view about how helpful crypto might be. As we said, the stablecoins have made crypto's ChatGPT moment happen since people are truly using it. Merchants are starting to really appreciate it, especially outside the US. In a viral sense, banks are starting to see that it's a good way to do business. We just heard Citigroup state that they are thinking about making a stablecoin, even if it's merely to help with their deposits. Still, is Wall Street really coming together around crypto? And in the end, a few things will be really significant. Wall Street wants to identify a huge chain that is following the rules in the US. Because there are currently a lot of real-world assets tied up and on the Layer 1. We think Ethereum will become quite important in the next 10 years. Do you think Ethereum can stay up? Yes, they just need to set up the correct incentives between their Layer 2s and Layer 1s and make sure there isn't too much gas out there that we can't handle. But I believe that's where these treasury businesses are doing a lot of vital work in making money by staking. I believe that when individuals become interested in a token or token platform again, it also sparks their ingenuity and desire to make it more useful. We think that this conversation, GPT moment, which is coming together around Ethereum, will also lead to a lot of new ideas. It's the same ASDs is after everyone had spent decades on SaaS and ChatGPT, first took over Silicon Valley, but you know what? There are now a lot of venture-funded enterprises that use AI and ChatGPT that are growing very quickly and reaching a $100 million run rate. I believe that's what will happen in the world of crypto. I think this is a very important time for the business to understand that Wall Street is coming together and bringing a lot of interest in new users. A lot of new uses that could change how important smart contracts and Ethereum are. I think Ethereum's dominance might really grow a lot. As we move into the second half of the year, what price do you think ETH will reach? At Fundstrat, we want to reach our price goal. So I have more than one job. I am the head of research at Fundstrat and the chairman of BitMine. I actually have a third job as the CIO of Fundstrat Capital. Sean Farrell is in charge of digital assets research at Fundstrat though, and he gave me some goals that aren't really formal. He thinks of it this way. If we compare Circle's free cash multiple, which is presently about 130 times EBITDA, Ethereum's, which is about 15,000 times EBITDA, Ethereum is closer to 15,000. That makes sense. Think about Layer 1. You should use a larger multiple for theoretical usage when you reach to Layer 1. This is the same reason why software businesses get greater multiples than retailers. If you're getting farther away from the client and the signal is clearer, you give that firm bigger multiples. So, I suppose our technical strategist Mark Newton thought we could be in the near future seeing 4,000 at the end of the month for Ethereum, but that's not the highest point. That's only the first objective for him. And then I suppose that if Sean Farrell's calculation is right, then 10,000 to 15,000 makes logical as well. By the end of the year, it could be the end of the year, or it could be sooner. I mean, it really does depend. And again, that wouldn't be the cap. It simply shows you that it's truly a level beyond 5,000, which would be a decisive. This is a all-time high. I think that's another important level to keep an eye on. We think that Ethereum is just too cheap as a token at its core. That's why crypto is having its ChatGPT moment and Ethereum is the second biggest winner. So, getting an asset that can go up in value by 10 times or more is a great way to employ a treasury. When MicroStrategy started their treasury strategy, Bitcoin was worth $11,000. Now it's worth $120,000. So I believe that's the main thing we want to get across. People remark, why don't you just buy Ethereum outright? Well, Ethereum treasury firm can really help you get more ETH per share by using capital markets and market volatility to raise money. They can also make money by staking. For example, Bitmain got $250 million in ETH to start with, and that was closed on July 9th or 8th. 3 days later, Bitmain added another $250 million to the treasury holdings. So, in only 3 days, the amount of holdings in the treasury, and that was on Friday of last week. So you can see that a treasury firm is better because the amount of ETH you believed you had per share simply increased in 3 days because the company bought additional ETH. You know that activity goes on. Of course, I think it's a good idea to own a treasury firm that uses capital markets to grow your ETH holdings per share. When we really look at what Tom Lee is saying, we see that he and I both believe that the next big thing in the crypto industry will be the use and adoption of stablecoins by big banks and financial institutions. So the most important thing we should all be asking is which blockchain are these banks going to use to make their own stablecoins? What they want is a solution to make smart contracts work for them that helps their customers and lets them make more money than they do currently. That's why these banks are producing their own stablecoins straight away. They know it's a brilliant business model that will let them make a lot more money. But we also need to make sure that these banks know which blockchain will work best for them. Ethereum does have wonderful decentralized apps, smart contracts, and a lot of other things. But so does the XRPL, in order to remain competitive in this new environment. The XRPL is being developed from the ground up and receiving all of this, new features and interoperability. And we need to remember that the XRPL was first made to work with these financial systems.